This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
This is Mike.
And this is Beck.
And Nina.
We are Brew Crime. All right, for this episode, we are going to cover kidnappings. So I think first is going to be Beck, and she's brought us something a little different than just a straight beer. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us what your story is going to be and then what the pairing is here?
So this story is called The Not-So-Magic School Bus. And it may seem like a horrible story about the largest kidnapping in U.S. history, but stick with me. It's really about being a hero no matter what your age. And the beer-ish thing that I have chosen to pair with this story
thing.
is actually a beer cocktail called School Bus.
And it's delicious.
So what's the mix here? What's going on?
Yeah, so it is 6 ounces of orange juice, a shot of amaretto, and 6 ounces of beer. And the beer I chose is Kronenberg Blanc. It's a wheat beer, and it's really nice with orange. With orange. I was going to say any citrus,
basically, but
really best with orange.
All right, well, let's get into this pairing then. It looks like orange juice or a New England IPA. Definitely smells like orange juice. I don't even know what amaretto smells like. I should have smelled that container you had there.
Amaretto is like cherry-ish. I mean, it's not like really sweet like maraschino cherry, but when you mix it with Coke, it tastes like cherry Coke.
Okay.
I love this.
Well, it's got a bit of a mild cherry nose, I guess. And then you get a little bit of the notes of that wheat beer you got.
And it's super refreshing.
It's not as carbonated as a mimosa or anything, but it reminds me a little bit of a mimosa. It's just easy drinking, good breakfast beer, breakfast drink.
Start your day off with this, for sure.
Yeah, this is really refreshing. This is I know it's not super early anymore. What time is it here? It's like almost 1 o'clock, but you can start your day with this.
It also feels really good on my hangover. Like, I think it's making me feel better.
Nice.
Hair of the dog.
It's the best way to do it, isn't it?
Yep.
This is genuinely delicious.
Super. You were worried.
I mean, I like orange juice, but yeah, the amaretto part scared me, but this is just flippin' delicious.
I'll take a bit of a refill.
Mm-hmm. Just adding a bit more beer to make it a little more effervescent.
I need to keep this pristine exactly how it is.
I'll mess with it.
Yep, that's better. I mean, it was good, but I like more fizz.
Yeah, that's fucking
yummy.
Actually, that when I added a little more beer, more cherry, actually. That's nice.
Yeah, that would be really good, like, at brunch.
Yes, exactly.
Beer cocktail.
Or now.
Yeah. No, I want brunch.
Later.
I always want brunch. Okay. Here we go. In Chowchilla, California, on July 15th, 1976, Frank Edward Ray, known as Ed, was having a regular Thursday morning. Got up, got ready for work, taking kids to summer school on the school bus. His morning was smooth sailing, but as he drove the 26 kids, aged 5 to 14, home from a field trip at the Chowchilla Fairgrounds swimming pool, they were abruptly stopped by 3 armed men. The men hid the bus near Berenda Slough, which was a nearby stream. They then drove Ed and the 26 kids around in 2 vans for about 11 hours.
Oh my God.
Holy crap, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in a van with 1 kid for 11 hours, let alone 26 kids.
Yeah.
They eventually took them to a quarry in Livermore, California, which is about 2 hours away from where they had hid the bus. Upon arrival, these pieces of human garbage forced Ed and the kids into a moving truck which had been buried.
Oh my God.
What?
They placed a small amount of food and water in the truck for them, as well as a number of mattresses. How generous.
Yeah.
Ed and the children spent hours in that truck, essentially buried alive. They needed to escape. There wasn't enough air, water, or food for even half the number of people that were in the truck. They began by stacking the mattresses one on top of the other to enable some of them to reach the opening at the top of the truck. The problem then was that the opening had been covered by a large metal plate with 2 100-pound industrial-sized batteries on top.
Holy crap.
Yeah, not exactly the weight that a child could lift.
Yeah, for sure.
Science to the rescue. These kids used a stick, science word lever, to pry the metal plate open just enough so that Ed could push the batteries off of the metal plate. And then the kids could climb out of the opening that was left. They'd been trapped in the back of that moving truck for 16 hours underground.
Holy crap.
They walked to the guard shack near the Shadow Cliffs East Bay Regional Park, the whole time terrified that the men were still out there, still waiting for them with these guns. Not a single one of them was harmed. The police began their investigation in earnest. They were looking for any lead, and since this was the 70s, hypnosis was still a reliable option.
Yeah.
Under hypnosis, Ed remembered what the license plate of one of the vans was. Also, the truck that they'd been buried in was registered to Frederick Newhall Woods the Fourth. Yeah, that's a fancy name.
Roman numerals, or?
Yeah, that's why I hesitated, because I was like, don't say IV. Even though I knew it was 4. Frederick was the quarry owner's son and not the greatest guy alive. He was arrested after fleeing to Vancouver, BC, a connection that I didn't know existed until I started researching
That's awesome.
the case. Welcome to Canada. We ain't putting up with your shit. Frederick's accomplices were Richard and James Schoenfield. Richard surrendered to authorities in California, and James was caught shortly before he was able to do the same. Under questioning, authorities found out that the kidnappers were unable to call in their ransom demand because the phone lines were so overloaded by media calls and families searching for their missing children.
Holy shit.
A draft of the ransom note was also found. See, Mike, some people do write drafts.
Throwing stones when you had a couple sentences you didn't like there.
The men were going to try and get $5 million in ransom. But why would 3 men from 2 wealthy families kidnap anyone, let alone 27 people? They'd lost $30,000 on a real estate deal that went bad, and apparently that was enough reason.
Dude.
Yeah.
Just with everything that's going on with properties right now, how much people are losing money. Like, imagine everyone resulted to this. Like,
Yeah.
it just makes no sense.
I'll go with Dark Poutine's words there. Douche canoe.
Yeah, I like that. That's funny.
Just idiots.
Yeah. Or douche canoes. Sorry, it's plural.
It could be a really long canoe.
That's
I don't
true.
know. Anyway, all 3 of them were eventually sentenced to life in prison. Richard was released in 2012 and James in 2015. Frederick was denied parole in late 2015 because he still minimized the crime and had multiple disciplinary infractions for possession of pornography and contraband cell phones. To be fair, he was arrested before cell phones were really available to the public, so I can understand why he was so fascinated.
Did he bring them in his prison pocket?
I mean, how else do you carry a contraband cell phone?
It's true, I guess, yeah.
Prison pocket. That is the best. Frederick's next possible parole date was in 2018, which he was again denied. Victims of the crime testified on either side of his parole hearings, but there was a lot of speculation that the victims that were witnesses for Frederick had actually been paid by his family.
But, like, why does he even need witnesses for him? You kidnapped 27 people and literally buried them alive. I don't...
Yeah.
Right.
But he's a good person, though.
Well, but victim impact statements have a lot of weight at parole hearings, right? So if some of the victims are like, I feel like he served his time for the crime.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood that. I thought it was, like, people for his character. I didn't realize it was the victim. Sorry,
Yeah.
I misunderstood that. I was like, really?
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, so that hasn't been proven or disproven, so I don't know how much weight we want to put on that, but it seems likely. I mean, it could just be me, but I can't imagine being buried alive as like an 11-year-old I personally, I would never forgive that person.
No, I
but
wouldn't either.
Some people have a lot more forgiveness than I do. So.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I think young people usually, not always, but usually can forgive faster than adults.
Yeah.
Is it very religious area? Because
There was nothing mentioned about
I'm
it.
curious,
but I know
because
what you
some
mean.
also have just forgiveness in God and,
Yeah.
kind of to move on and whatever. So I'd be curious if maybe that played into some of that.
I do have a bit more information about what happened to them, like how they were as adults, just coming up. Yeah. So also on Frederick's side was that Richard and James had been paroled and had lived completely clean lives after being released. So it was like, it made the possibility for him doing the same, but they had also admitted that it was a horrible thing that they did.
Yeah.
And that they were very sorry and that they just hoped for forgiveness from those kids.
So they
and
had
he
remorse.
was still, a lot of remorse. And he was still like, I don't see what the big deal was. It was only a day. You know what I mean? I don't know. Bury him in the back of the van for 16 hours with like no food and 26 other people and see how he feels about it.
No, just skip the 26 other people because it's even worse by yourself.
Maybe.
I feel like
think
it'd be
it
worse
depends
with
on the
more
person.
people, because if you're trying to stay calm and just trying to keep your stuff together, and out of those 26 people, there could be people who are just having a really poor reaction to
Well,
it, or
then who
just
else?
freaking
Especially
out.
like all kids,
Plus,
right?
it's
Except for
getting
one guy.
hot and it's sticky.
There's
and
not enough food.
Everyone has to pee and poop, and who knows how
So
long.
where are you going to find these other 25 people then? Like a prison? Like
I don't know. I mean,
don't-
I don't actually believe that should happen.
Aren't the
that's
prisons already
crazy, but-
overpopulated anyway? They're just not buried. Well, no, but I mean, like, they're already living in those like tight conditions.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not buried yet, but
practically.
Years after the kidnapping, many of the kids, now adults, got together to do a group interview. Many of them were still traumatized by the event, still sleeping with all the lights on. They couldn't handle to be in any small spaces. They couldn't handle the dark, anything like that. Ed, the bus driver, passed away in May of 2012. Before passing away, many of the children that he had saved, or helped saved, because there were other kids also helped as well. But many of the children came to visit him before he passed.
That's
and
nice.
now in Chowchilla, California, they declared every February 26th Edward Ray Day, because that was his birthday.
No way, that's awesome.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. That's my story, which I'm delighted, although it was short, it was actually a happy ending.
Yeah, for sure.
I couldn't even imagine like just the underground, and I already have some claustrophobia issues, so that would just be detrimental. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine either.
There's an episode similar to your story, Criminal Minds. There's a bus kidnapping, I think it was. But they had cell phones, so some of the girls were able to
Yeah, when I was
nice.
doing the research for this story, I did read that there was a fair number of shows like that that did stories based on this case.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
But
cool.
like you said, they either put it in modern times, so
Yeah.
obviously they had to change it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to tie it in with the current day.
Right.
For sure.
So for our kidnapping episode, I picked the story about Adam Welsh. It's a pretty famous case, I think, known. Of course,
Definitely.
his father is John Walsh, who started the show and I believe still hosts America's Most Wanted.
Oh, yeah.
For the pairing for this story, honestly, I just picked it by the name. The name of the beer is Arcade Glow. The reason I chose it for the name is when Adam was taken, his mom had actually left him with some older boys who were playing arcade games
No way.
in a Sears. Yeah.
That's a
So I kind of
good
just
connection.
matched it by the name.
Wait. Sears had games you could play?
They had games, well, from what my understanding is, from where the Sears was, I'll get into it in the story, but
Okay.
she was in the Sears to get lamps or to ask about pricing for lamps. And there was just some older boys who were playing on an arcade machine. I couldn't figure out what game it was. I feel like it was Atari, what I read, but I'm not positive. And anyways, so that's just my tie-in for the beer.
All right.
Mike, if you want to do, your shtick.
My shtick? Yeah. So, Arcade Glow is by Boombox Brewing, which is brewed out of Parallel 49 in East Van.
And it's literally the hat you're wearing right now.
It is, yes. And it's a
Great hat.
Great
hazy
hat.
pale ale. Yeah, they got an amazing logo. So it is a 5% alcohol beer, which is actually really low for these guys. And it says, a very hop-forward pale ale. And that's all it says on their website.
Okay.
Short but sweet.
Yeah, exactly. So here, let's do this then. The ingredients are water, malt, oat flakes, hops, and yeast.
Short and sweet.
Also short but sweet. Nice. I've actually seen this before. I haven't tried it yet, but I do like the artwork.
Yeah, so do I.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks like an old school TV, like lit up, or an arcade machine.
It reminds me of the Poltergeist, like
I haven't
Okay,
seen that.
yeah.
the movie screen, just how...
I know
fuzzy.
the scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the extent of my knowledge of that movie.
Yeah.
It is a lovely color. I know I'm going to like it already.
It basically looks like the cocktail we just had.
Was the hat just a pure coincidence?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I love their logo.
It's really cool.
Yeah, so it's a boombox and it has, what is it, like wheat?
Hops.
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 Yeah, hops. But yeah, no, it looks just like orange juice. It's got that murky orange color, but it's just got a head on top, so smells
Delicious.
delicious. Yeah, it smells like a lot of the fruity hop notes, and it's got some vegetal, like herbal notes too from all the hops that are in it.
That's some what?
Vegetal, like because it's
I
so
like
much
that word.
so much green matter from all of the hops that are in there,
Delightful. New words.
and it's also kind of floral. It's not super fruity on the flavor. A little bit grainy, a little bit fruity, but it's mostly just a lot of hops without being super bitter. At least to me, it's not super bitter.
It's
I
not.
don't know about you.
I don't find it too bitter. I think it's tasting a little bit more bitter than it actually is right now, but just because we had all that orange juice.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But it is still really nice. I'd like to have it again, especially one day if it's hot out. 'cause
Yeah.
It's really effervescent, so it would be really refreshing.
So a lot of big words.
Kind of grainy, too. Yeah. It's nice.
It is really good. Good choice, Nina.
I will definitely slowly drink this and just refill my glass a little bit here, because it seems to have gotten a little emptier.
That's weird.
I think that
I know.
usually that's what happens when you drink from the glass.
I agree, but it's a good thing there's a free refill in front of me.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to get right into it. So on the afternoon of July 27th in 1981, Adam's mom, whose name is Reeve, and I
Okay.
hope I'm pronouncing that right, it's Reve.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Reeve and Adam went to the Hollywood Mall in Hollywood, Florida, to go to a Sears. Reeve was looking to price out a lamp she had seen before. There were some boys nearby who were playing an arcade game. They were a little bit older than Adam, but she let Adam hang out with them just to watch them play. When she was done asking about the lamp, she returned back only to notice that all of them were actually gone. So she talked to the security guard who was there just to see if she knows where they went. He said that the boys, the older boys, got into a little bit of a kerfuffle about whose turn it was going to be next to play. So because they were causing a bit of a ruckus, he actually kicked the boys out of the mall. Adam's mom feels that because Adam was only 6 and he was definitely the youngest out of the bunch, he's probably too shy to say anything, so he just exited with the boys.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You
so
just like respect authority. You don't really know.
what's going on? Yeah. So she asked the security guard just to take her to kind of like the exit where he took them out from, and none of the boys were there, and Adam, of course, wasn't there either.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
6.
Yeah, 6 years old. She continued looking around for him just to see if she can find him. She was walking around with mall security. She even went onto the PA system to call out for him. And she, of course, went to the toy section in the store and still couldn't find Adam. While she was walking around, she actually happened to walk into Adam's grandmother, Jean, and they both continued the search for him. About an hour and a half after they couldn't locate him, they contacted Hollywood police. After the police was contacted, a helicopter and ground search ensued, and after 4 days and many police officers searching, many were assigned to the case, of course, they came up with nothing. John Walsh and Reeve Walsh actually even went on to Good Morning America to appeal to the public's help for just any information or if anyone saw anything.
I kind of know the story, but how did they get on Good Morning America? Or maybe kidnappings of that sort were so much less, I don't want to say common, but do you know what I mean? That it was more of a big deal, but I don't know.
I wasn't exactly able to find out why they got onto Good Morning America, but a lot of the things about the case was, at the time when it had happened, he essentially got labeled as the poster child for kidnappings. So in a sense, it was just because I think my understanding is that the Welsh family did have some money in their background.
Okay.
And they went to the big searches, everywhere, like the milk carton, posters, everything.
Right.
So it was just such a huge public case.
Right.
And because he was, I mean, I have a picture that we'll post with the story, but he was adorable, right? So I think it caught a lot of people's attention because it's a beautiful young kid, middle of the day in a mall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
During this time, they said that, well, what I had seen is that a lot of the kidnappings were usually by either a parent or a
Right.
family member or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And this was one of the first really huge publicized random abductions
Yeah.
in such a public place.
Right. Okay.
16 days after Adam had gone missing, it was August 10th, 2 fishermen found Adam's severed head floating in a canal of the Florida Turnpike near Vero Beach, Florida. This was almost 130 miles from Hollywood.
Oh my God.
The following morning, on August 11th, John and Reeve actually appeared on national television, still hoping that he was alive, and they actually offered a $100,000 reward for his safe return.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, soon after this had aired, they were able to conclude that the recovered remains were actually Adam. This discovery would have changed the way that United States deals with crimes against children, for better or for worse. The coroner had ruled that the cause of Adam's death was asphyxiation. This state of the remains suggested that Adam had died several days before the discovery of his head. It's also important to note that the remainder of his body was actually never recovered.
What?
Yeah,
Holy shit.
But his head was found in water, right?
that's correct.
Yeah, so, I mean, it could, a horrible, morbid thing to say, but it could have floated out to anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
the
you're saying
been-
this is Florida too, so there could have been
gators.
Yeah.
could have been animals involved with the not finding the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Still horrible, but
Definitely
not,
horrible,
like,
yeah.
super shocking.
Yeah, in a little bit I'll say what the person who ended up being convicted of the crime or found to be guilty of the crime, what he said that he did with the body. So I'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
Looking at the investigation, it was really clear that the police botched the investigation. They ended up concluding that Adam was abducted by Otis O'Toole. He was a convicted serial killer, and he was a partner to Henry Lee Lucas,
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, God, that name sounds familiar.
who was also a convicted killer. Henry Lee Lucas and Otis O'Toole repeatedly confessed to many, many crimes. I think there was over 200 crimes that they confessed to. So they weren't able, some were disproved. Some, I think they were just boasting
Yeah,
and
of
trying to
course.
get a higher kill count.
I hate that. Like,
Well, when Otis O'Toole was questioned by the police about Adam's disappearance, he confessed to the murder, but then he also retracted his involvement in the kidnapping and killing. Then he confessed again, and he kept retracting and kind of going back and forth.
What an asshole.
He was already in jail serving a life sentence, so he wasn't getting out. But I think it's just really disappointing that the family didn't have that opportunity for closure of just, what is it that happened? Or if it wasn't him, we have a seriously deranged lunatic running around somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
Could
He's just
reoffend.
like toying with their emotions by
Yeah.
doing that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Despicable.
So with the confession that Otis had given, he said that he saw Adam being instructed by the security guard to leave the building, and he lured Adam to his white 1971 Cadillac as he promised him some toys and candy. Toole then drove down Interstate 95 towards his home in Jacksonville. He actually said that he wanted to make Adam his adoptive son, which he kidnapped him to have a son.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time I've heard that, but it's often, unfortunately, it's usually from women who can't have kids for some reason that'll abduct kids.
That's what I was going to say. It's the first time I've ever heard a male.
Yeah.
That's because Henry Lee Lucas and Otis were actually they're in a relationship, so they were together, so they could not have children.
Yeah. They would need a surrogate then, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think surrogate's a way better way to go than abducting someone. Abducting someone.
Oh, hell yeah.
However, after he had abducted Adam, he did say that Adam was just really kind of calm and compliant and that he seemed okay. But as they got further away, they realized that Adam started to get worried. Toole essentially said that he started panicking and he hit Adam a couple of times, knocking him unconscious. He then drove north on the Florida Turnpike to a deserted service road close to Radboo Road overpass in northwest St. Lucie County.
What? The kid was nervous and scared, and as his quote, like, adopted father, you think the best course of action is hitting him? You can't be a parent then.
Well, that's
not how that
trashy,
works.
Garbage people, so.
I mean, he's a monster, right?
Yeah.
I know, I get that, but also fuck you.
Yeah, it gets worse. When they got to the service road, he said that he realized that Adam was actually still breathing, so he ended up strangling him with a seatbelt. He also decapitated him with a machete, and I wasn't really able to find personally any information on why he had to decapitate his head. I don't know, maybe easier way to dispose of the body.
He didn't have to, he's just being a piece of garbage.
I don't get it. So he left the head, but took the rest of the body with him. And he says that the reason they weren't able to locate the body is because he incinerated it in an old refrigerator back at his home in Jacksonville.
Weird.
Yeah. And I mean, he was literally driving around with a torso in his car.
Yeah.
But it's just, I'm not sure what the distance is from where he is in Jacksonville to where they were in Florida, but I don't have words for that.
Yeah, the whole thing about being adoptive parents is a total load of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't question the sanity of this person, right? He's just completely insane, right? So
yeah.
I don't know that that's a rational mind, right? But I think it's complete hogwash. But at least he is trying to justify it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. It just builds into his psychosis.
Absolutely, he's just completely just batshit. Going back to how I mentioned that there's a lot of claims about the police botching this, the police weren't able to determine the source of the blood found in the car, because they did, when Otis was arrested, obviously have his car, but they never were able to determine where that blood came from. So this is from his prior convictions. Then, this is just so bad. The police lost the blood-stained carpet from the car, so they couldn't test it. They also lost the machete that was allegedly used to decapitate Adam.
How do you lose a machete?
And the police actually eventually ended up losing the car as well.
What?
So I have no idea how that is possible, but it's just a complete shit show. So part of this is why I think they maybe had trouble just actually linking Otis to the crime truly, because they misplaced all of this.
That is crazy.
Someone got fired for that.
Yeah, this just fucked.
Yeah, people definitely lost their jobs over that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Toole was never officially charged in Adam's case. Of course, he did provide a lot of details of how he did it, why he did it. They were able to place him in the Hollywood area during this time. In September of 1996, Toole died in prison of cirrhosis. That's cirrhosis. I didn't want to give him I didn't care what it was to look it up because I don't care about him. So I don't know what it is, but people who want to look it up.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Cirrhosis, but I don't remember what it is.
No idea.
Usually it's cirrhosis of like the liver, so it's an alcohol related illness.
That makes sense.
Okay.
People that drink way too much.
Okay, well, yeah. Otis's niece actually spoke to John Walsh and told her that her uncle confessed on his deathbed to Adam's murder. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, his confession still didn't seem completely reliable, because he essentially did implicate himself and Henry Lucas, as I mentioned earlier, in over 200 crimes, right? So we're not sure. And there was also some claims that some of the confessions may have been coerced by Texas Rangers.
That never happens. Never.
It just
happens a lot.
In general, not the Texas Rangers. But
Yeah. But it happens a lot.
yeah.
it just sounds like there's a lot of injustices, and it's just like really a messy story, really murky story. In 1997, Hollywood Police Chief Rick Stone conducted another review of Adam's case. John Walsh had actually written a book about the case, and Rick Stone went through the evidence, reviewed everything again, because the book kind of just made him want to relook at the case and open it again. And from what he found, he was able to conclude that beyond a reasonable doubt that Toole did in fact murder Adam.
It had to be a nice bit of closure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously still completely tragic, but
Yeah.
an answer.
Yep.
You know?
There's also a tie-in with this story with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Your fave.
It was tough with this story because I can't even understand how and why this happened. And he's he's a baby.
Yeah, totally.
6 years old, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. There were even some claims that the person guilty for this heinous crime was Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested in Wisconsin in 1991, and he murdered dozens of men and boys, and he was named a suspect in Adam's murder. He was actually living in Miami Beach at the time. There were some witnesses that ended up placing Dahmer at the scene. However, after further just discussion with the witnesses, they remembered seeing pictures of Dahmer on the television and in the news, and they just assumed another tall white male, basically bad witnesses.
Yeah.
They even retracted what they said, that
Yeah.
they,
Well, eyewitnesses
he's-
are actually the worst witnesses you can get, so.
Yeah. Well, he's out of the age range for Dahmer anyway, isn't he?
But I think at the time when Dahmer was arrested, he was just seen as this cruel monster.
So
yeah,
he was
no,
the
totally,
boogeyman.
totally. Yeah,
He was
exactly.
he was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
total
yeah.
boogeyman.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying he's not horrible.
No.
I'm just saying
Right.
that this isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The police obviously looked into it, and John Walsh also did some of his investigations, and they 100% believe that Jeffrey Dahmer had absolutely nothing to do with this. And Jeffrey Dahmer was, of course, interviewed for this as well. And I'm just going to quote him what he said, but he said, "I've already told you everything I've done, how I killed them, how I cooked them, who and why I ate them. Why wouldn't I tell you if I did this as well?"
Yeah.
So I think that's, a really...
It's like the only bit of credit you can give
Yeah.
that
They usually want more
monster
credit than they
is
actually
that
really have, so.
he didn't claim anything that wasn't
Right.
something he did.
Yeah. So obviously a big reason the case went unsolved for so long was given the procedural mistakes that were made early in 1981, with investigators losing some major pieces of evidence, and of course giving that Otis had confessed, then recanted, confessed, and back and forth. They had done another thorough review, and on December 16th, 2008, a new police chief, Chad Wagner, finally announced that the case was closed, and they announced that they were satisfied that Toole was in fact the murderer. Adam's case was seen as a huge failure of the justice system, which led to new calls for higher quality police work, as it should.
Yeah.
Lastly, when talking about Adam Welch's case, I think it's really important to also talk about the amazing work that John Walsh had done.
Yeah.
He turned his grief into trying to help other parents who are going through the same thing that him and his wife were going to, and trying to find justice for their loved ones. John started the television show America's Most Wanted in 1988. As well, he funded the Adam Welsh Child Resource Center, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It actually also inspired the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act of 2006, which established through an accessible nationwide database of convicted sex offenders, specifically that also had crimes against children, and it created the National Child Abuse Registry, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
There was also another act in 2016, which was the Adam Walsh Reauthorization. Anyways, I think just in summary, the case was awful. It was really tough just seeing how confused the parents were, what the police, the injustice with that. I don't know that they would have been able to find him sooner or necessarily find him alive.
Yeah.
But I believe that this family did not deserve to go through everything that they had done. And I genuinely, commend that John Walsh has just done something absolutely amazing. And from such a huge tragedy, I think so many good things came out of that in what everyone is helping to gain. Yeah, and I just think it's amazing everything that he was able to do and what he did with his grief, as I mentioned, to just help everyone else. And I definitely believe it's done good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it reminds me a little bit when I mentioned one of our previous episodes about Chuck Cadman, where Jesse Cadman was murdered just for being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and he got into politics to try to change Canada's Young Offenders Act.
Totally.
Same kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Something terrible happened, and they changed their lives to try to help other children or other people to make sure it didn't happen to someone else.
Yeah, people like
which
that
is amazing.
Such an inspiration.
Yeah.
To just be able to turn something so heartbreaking, something so devastating,
Yep.
Yeah.
and to just be like, I'm not going to collapse. I'm going to make it better for other people.
Not to self-destruct when that
Exactly.
happens so easily, because,
Exactly.
I mean, it's devastating. If you have a child and you lose your child, that is so devastating.
And he was their firstborn son as well. So they
Yeah.
only had Adam. Afterwards, they did end up having, I believe it was 3 more children. Obviously happy, healthy, everything is good. But it was definitely nice to see or research a case where they did something with their grief.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
think everyone can do it. So I don't want to judge other people who haven't or
No,
nothing like that. But this was just truly inspiring, everything that he's done. And of course, if anyone's listening to True Crime Podcast, I would assume you've watched, America's Most Wanted, and just you can see the good that that's doing. And I think it's unreal.
Well, and not just him, obviously his wife as well, because it takes, obviously, like what he's doing, it's very public, but
Yeah.
I mean,
they're
also
both.
she's taking care of their family and supporting them so that he can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely an amazing, strong couple.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I mean,
very inspirational.
There's also, I just through some other kidnapping stories that I know, like where the parents actually ended up separating because something like this divided them, right?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
I was a little worried when I was Googling and researching the case, but I didn't want to find anything where they blamed Reeve for leaving him with these boys. And I didn't see that anywhere. There was
Good.
full support from them together. During this time, it was normal to just let your kids, they're going to go hang out with their friends down the street, or
Yeah.
they're going to
Oh,
do
yeah.
It
this.
was
You walk
safe
there by
then.
absolutely, right? And I think this case definitely changed the way that people function with their daily lives, because this stopped that, right? People started taking more precautions because they were scared of, these random people who kidnap your kids, right? So, yeah, I was really happy to find that she didn't get no one pointed fingers at her,
Yeah,
like, how
for
could
sure.
you do this, right? Like, so that was truly amazing. But yeah, they're definitely a powerhouse team.
They sure are.
Yep. So yeah, that's everything that I have for the story.
The Girls Are Gone, a review. This is a book by Michael Broadcorp and Allison Mann. Quick synopsis before the review. A bitter divorce was heating up between David Rucky and Sandra Grazzini Rucky. On the evening of April 19, 2013, 2 of their 5 children, Samantha and Gianna Rucky, disappeared. Their father, David, worked tirelessly with law enforcement to search for his 2 missing daughters. Their mother, Sandra Grazzini Rucky, was pretty busy vacationing. As the investigation intensified, Sandra also became impossibly hard to find. The Girls Are Gone is the true story of 2 sisters who went missing, the father who kept searching, and the adults who conspired to keep the truth hidden. So the first half of the book is very heavy on information. There's a lot of court transcripts. The good news is it's not one of those ridiculously sensationalized books where you're just drowning in drama so much that it seems false. The bad news is the first half of the book is very dry. My advice is to just stick with it. You need to hear about this case. It's ridiculous. It's shocking. I can't believe that I had never heard of it before. To call Sandra a mother is a stretch at best.
Yeah.
She gave birth to these kids, but it's clear that her self-interest was all she ever cared about. I don't want to give too much away about the book, but it is definitely worth reading. You just can't believe her antics, and to still be claiming like she still claims as if she's one of the victims. It's nonsense.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. I can't wait to read that one and get a little more information on it. Mm-hmm. So you can get Girls Are Gone on Amazon.com. I'm sure Amazon.ca too. Probably any of your bookstores. Head out and buy the book and let us know what you think.
It's definitely worth the read. Hey guys, this is Nina of Brew Crime. Have you heard about the Podcoin app yet? This is the first podcast app that will actually pay you to listen to your favorite podcasts. You can find the podcast app on Android and iPhone, and not only is it free, but it's really simple to use. While listening to podcasts, you gain Podcoins that can then be used to buy gift cards or even be donated towards charity. So either give to a good cause or get a gift card for places like Amazon or Starbucks. You're already spending time listening to podcasts, why not make some money while you're at it? If you use the invite code BREWCRIME, one word, no spaces, you can even earn 300 bonus Podcoins just for signing up. So head over to your app store and give Podcoin a try now.
So for my story, I've got a missing child reunited with a parent 31 years after their disappearance.
Whoa.
Yeah. So for the beer that I have paired for this one, I've got Strange Fellow Brewing's The Unfamiliar, a Brett Brown Ale. So it's 6.8% alcohol. And it says, as a stranger in a strange land, you are the unfamiliar. Can you be trusted? When the moment comes, will you do the right thing? Whatever you propose. One day you'll reflect on the deeds and know the answer. Until then, a sip of this ale with its complex, earthy character will remind you to choose wisely and act with kindness. The strange land will never be the same as it was before.
Wow.
It actually says that it pairs with
Podcasting. What?
frangipani tarts, cherry pie figs, and charcuterie. I had trouble with frangipani. Wow.
What is that?
It's those
Meat and cheese.
Oh, fuck yeah.
plates.
Mm-hmm. Can I see the bottle, please?
Yes.
It's lovely. I wish I had like pencil crayons to color it in.
We have pencil crayons.
You are on.
It's dark.
It is very dark. It's a brown ale. Mm-hmm. So barrel-aged.
Nina will thoroughly enjoy her thimble.
Barrel-aged brown ale with Brettanomyces, which is a wild yeast strain. And Nina likes the smell. It's got some nice roastiness. It's got some dark fruits and some funkiness from that Brettanomyces. That word is hard.
It smells good. It smells sweet.
A little bit sweet, yeah. A little bit of maybe some caramel or something in there. Mild.
It smells awful. What about you? Really?
It's got like
I'm
some
not sure what it is.
cherry notes and stuff in the nose.
Might be cherry. I do really love cherry.
You get a little bit of almost like, I don't know if the roast just give me like ideas of coffee or not, but little hints of something.
Why does the head look like that?
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's like segmented.
Well, yours looks different than mine. Mine has got a nice like full head across the top.
Okay,
probably just
so
how you
we'll cut
poured
this out because it's probably that I didn't rinse out my cup.
No, it's just how you poured it, I think, because mine has still got a nice solid head on it. It's got that roast, and it's got the little bit of chocolate and caramel that you'd get in a brown ale, but then it's also, the wild yeast brings in a bit of a funk.
It's like fruity tart.
Fruity tart. Like, also, I think the cherries are bringing some of that tart in there. There's some notes of fig that the website tells me that I'm tasting, and I do taste it after that.
I think I always identify fig as something else because I don't eat figs.
Yeah. Now,
I've only ever had actual figs once, and they were from Nina's mom.
Oh, there you go.
And those were from Maureen. She has fig trees.
Yep.
And the one thing I wasn't actually expecting here, because it is a Brett Brown Ale, but it's actually more of an oud brewing style, which is a Belgian style, a Flemish style.
I'm shrugging right now.
Yeah. So that's why it's got more of that tartness. It's not really sour per se, but it's a little more funky tartness in it.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it sour.
So they're going for that Belgian style.
I like it.
So do I. That's really good.
I appreciate your guys' opinions.
I'll drink yours.
It's no.
Not drinkable. It's just half a mouthful.
Yeah. I think definitely this, my basic palate, this is just too much.
It's not basic enough for you.
Did you like any of them yet? Or you liked the
I've
orange
everything
juice.
but this. The other one, the last one was okay.
Mm-hmm.
The
Arcade Glow?
was okay.
Yeah. When you hear of a child being abducted today, you think of immediate Amber Alerts and scrambles to find children. Back in 1987, things were far different, unfortunately, and it left a mother wondering if her son was still alive. Jermaine Allen Mann was the child of Lyneth Mann Lewis and Alan Mann. His parents separated either before he was born or when he was extremely young. It was kind of unclear, but he lived with his mother in Toronto, Ontario. His father had visitation rights, as usually happens with separations with couples. On June 24th, 1987, Alan Mann would pick up his 21-month-old child for a scheduled visitation. At the end of the scheduled visitation, Alan had not brought Jermaine back to the house, and Lyneth reported her son missing to the Missing Children Society of Canada. Well, before passports were needed to cross the border into the United States, it was much easier to move freely between the countries.
I remember that.
This is exactly what happened, as it turns out. Alan fled Canada with his toddler son and used family he had in the U.S. to get settled.
I don't like that.
No. Over the years, this case had been investigated by a large group of U.S. and Canadian authorities. This included the Department of Housing and Urban Development, U.S. Marshals, Department of Homeland Security, Social Security Administration, as well as Toronto Police and the RCMP.
Wow.
Yeah. The CEO of Missing Children Society of Canada, or MCSC, Amanda Pick, credits the work of retired police officer Ted Davis, who worked with the MCSC for the final outcome of this case. So, remember I said 1987? Fast forward to 2018, the U.S. Marshals were hot on the trail, interviewing Alan Mann's friends and relatives that lived in the United States. From this, they received information that Alan may have settled in Connecticut. But in 2018...
I'm not good at math. How many years was that? 28, 29,
Would you
30
say
years almost?
87?
Yeah, 87, yeah.
It's almost 30 years.
Well, when this finally got settled, it was 31 years.
Wow.
From this, a forensic specialist with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children would compare two photos from Alan Mann, one in 1987 and one from D'Souza from a 2015 driver's license. This person found that it was likely this was the same person in both photos.
Wow.
It was found that Alan Mann had obtained fake birth certificates for both of them. He was reported to have one that stated he was born in Houston, Texas at St. Joseph Hospital, and Jermaine, under an assumed name, was born at Hermann Hospital, also in Houston. It was proven by the Houston Health Department and Texas Health and Human Services Commission that these were fake documents. Through good police work, they were finally found in Section 8 housing in Vermont, Connecticut. From what I figured out, Section 8 is low-income housing in the U.S., so basically it's projects.
Yeah. Thanks for looking that up, because I was like, I'm not sure what that is.
No worries. Yeah, I'd never heard Section 8 before.
Yeah.
I definitely heard about projects all over the place. And it's not always projects. It's low-income housing, so sometimes it was actually regular housing paid for by the government, but most often it was shitty projects that were, terrible, but that's where people lived if they had no money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it living. I
Yeah.
think that's just where they were forced to stay.
Yeah. Well, it's even sadder because, they moved out of Toronto, Canada to go to a project in the States. And that's pretty shitty. While there were active warrants for Alan Mann's arrest in both countries, he will be tried in the United States first before he can come to Canada through extradition. Mm-hmm. He is charged in the United States with making false statements in transactions with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I've not been able to figure out if he was charged as of yet, but if he is charged, he will serve out his entire sentence south of the border before he can head to Canada to face justice for his kidnapping decades ago. Mm-hmm.
Isn't it that they have to have an agreement between the governments to move him before before his American sentence is served?
Well, we have an extradition treaty between U.S. and Canada, and that's why there's the whole issue right now with China, with the Huawei CFO.
Yeah.
Because we have an extradition treaty. They asked us to arrest her, and now we're suffering the consequences of that. So it doesn't matter. We have that extradition treaty already between the countries.
Yeah, I know we have the treaty. I just meant is it that he would have to serve his full sentence there and then be eligible for charges and a trial here?
He has
and
to
that's
serve
why
out his
we're
sentence.
waiting?
Oh, he has to serve out a sentence there first because they arrested him, and he has been charged there.
Right.
So he will serve out a sentence in the United States.
And be extradited.
And then as soon as he is released, he is extradited
Charged again.
here.
Right.
And then we charge him. Because he will be extradited to Canada, and the minute he crosses the border, he'll be arrested.
Right.
Which he'll probably be in handcuffs as he is crossing the border.
Handed
right?
over, essentially, yep.
Handcuffed over.
Yeah.
I think that's the technical term.
So he did show up in the court soon after his arrest in Hartford, and he pleaded not guilty. Yeah.
That's not my son.
His son Jermaine sobbed in the front row during the hearing, though, with his head in his hands. What could you expect from a child that had been told his mother had died when he was a toddler and had been raised by his father?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Detective Sergeant Wayne Banks of the Toronto Police stated that cases like this were not common. This is believed to be the longest case in North America, if possibly not the world, where an abducted child is reunited with a parent and they're both in safe condition.
Wow. That is...
Yeah. He also said here, it is a very rare occurrence, but at the same time, I think it gives hope to all parents out there who have had their children abducted. But it is also a caution to people who have abducted children that time is not on their side. Eventually, they will be located and apprehended.
That poor kid, though. What a huge mind fuck.
I don't understand when things like that happen between parents. Like, I feel like as a parent, your right should be to your child, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe in the extent that some people have to go to kidnap them and to resort to something like this. But, I mean, I don't understand why he only got visitation right and wasn't the legal guardian, or like, do you know any of that, or?
Well, I mean, I think it's proven in the end that it's a good thing they didn't give him the legal right and only visitation rights because he fucking abducted the kid.
Yeah, I mean,
usually what it comes down to.
It's more often than not that the mother will get custody. Whether that's right, it's not right 100% of the time. I mean, just because a mother gives birth to a child, that doesn't mean that she's the...
It's not more
best.
hers than it is the dad's.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not as true as it used to be anymore.
I don't know that it was ever true.
Well, no. Often, it used to be that often the female would get... The woman would get the kid first. Nowadays, it's not quite as true, but often in a divorce, back in the day, the man would be gone out of the house, so he wouldn't have a stable housing.
Yeah, I misunderstood what you were saying, so that's my fault.
They always used to give it to the woman because she would stay in the house with the kids, so she had stable housing.
Yeah.
You're not going to give a kid to someone who doesn't have a stable house. But that is not always the case anymore.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just such an extreme to go to, and like what he must have done to move to get the fake, all of that. It's sad to me that he figured that the only way he could be with his son is that he had to do something this extreme, right?
Yeah.
Was that what he thought, though, or was it just that he was like...
or was it a power and control thing?
Yeah.
But I mean, if it was control, I would think that he would taunt the wife, right? Like, what did he get out of it? He literally just said...
She has to think what happened to my son for 31 years in the end, right?
Yeah, what he got out of it was complete control over his son, because as far as his son knew...
Yeah, and as far as
his
ex-wife, I guess, because he never divorced. He just, they separated, but I don't think they ever divorced. But he just buggered off.
Yeah, it's just insane.
But most important in all of this is Jermaine is now known under a new name, one that has not been made public, but he has now been reunited with his mother. Here are a few quotes. Their words: "Your son is alive. We found him. This is breathtaking, Amanda Pick, CEO of MSCS, said Monday. I'm still trying to find the words to express just how powerful this conclusion is and the result of seeing a mother reunited with her son 31 years later, Pick told CBC Toronto. I believe that hope is present in every single case when it comes to a family searching for a missing child. And so to see hope last 31 years with a conclusion and a result of finding that child safely is a powerful thing. Through Missing Children's Society of Canada, Jermaine was reunited with his mother, Lyneth Mann Lewis. They flew her from Ontario to Connecticut, where Jermaine is currently living. She met her son for the first time in 31 years. As well as for her son, he met his mother he never knew. So this is very emotional and probably happy time for both of them, from what I have heard, Detective Banks said. Linda said that they spoke for hours when they first met, and she made sure to make him a meal before she headed back to Ontario.
That's cute.
This audio is actually from a press conference. He never made it to it because he had a test the day they finally decided to do the press conference. So it's just the mother with some of the other family members.
I grabbed him and I squeezed his head. I want to feel if he's real. I touched him. I said, oh my God, my baby. He looked, oh, mommy, you have my eyes. And he hugged me and he kissed. You have my eyes. He hugged me and he kissed me. And we held there for a long time. I've always known my child as Jermaine. So yes, that sticks with me, Jermaine. But I also have to respect the fact that he was a child. Didn't know anybody, nothing. He didn't know anything. So what was given to him, he had no choice but to live with that. And so if the name that he has right now, he would like to respect that, then I'm going to stand with him.
So that was his mom at the press conference. It was a much longer press conference, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Wow.
This reunion only happened due to more than 200 tips to both U.S. and Canadian police, as well as between 300 and 400 interviews. With hard work of police and other groups, families get reunited with their abducted children. Sometimes people get very lucky like this, and they get to meet their missing child as an adult. I wanted to share this more as an uplifting story this episode, as my stories usually end up quite dark. It definitely makes me smile knowing that this mother gets to know her son now.
And that he has his mom back.
Yeah. Holding the story on a quote that appears to be from Lyneth Mann Lewis, but I couldn't quite tell. There was a quote, but it wasn't obvious who sent it, but it just made more sense it was her. Be patient, be strong, and believe that all things are possible and anything can transpire.
Wow.
And that's my story.
Awesome.
I think it's interesting that both you and I, given the theme of kidnapping, found happy ending ones.
Yeah.
I just don't like the ones that involve kids. You know what I mean? So I was pleased to find one that was like historically one of the largest, but also it still had a happy ending.
Yeah, for sure.
I really liked yours too. I can imagine as an adult meeting someone who is like that they had the same eyes, for example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, to meet someone who is just like, oh, that's why I look the way that I look.
Well, as someone who's in their mid to late 30s, to imagine that this child was away from his mother for 31 years.
Oh, God, no.
Is hard to believe, right? Just because we're not that much older than that. Mm-hmm. So I could not imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's different too because he thought she just didn't exist.
Yeah,
right? So I think,
for sure, yeah.
I think that might have been easier versus knowing that you're kidnapped and your mom is somewhere.
Well, even if he didn't know, there's also the possibility that, like, his father could have said that she abandoned them.
Yeah.
Or something.
Right.
And then there would have been so much
anger,
bitterness.
Yeah, for sure.
Hatred. You know?
I don't know, would it be more of a mindfuck than just the fact that your mother's dead and then 31 years later, actually your mother's alive and she lives in Canada? I don't know.
But at least he wouldn't have the decades of
I guess,
hate towards her.
it would have
leaving
changed
us or
his
whatever.
mental upbringing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to change his mental state now, though.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I mean, I'm glad that if he wants to keep this private for himself, I'm glad they've left his name out of the record for now.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I kind of wish I knew his name because I'd like to be able to follow along in the future and see what happens to him now that.
Yeah,
he's
I
found his
understand
mother,
that sentiment,
you know?
but obviously he
But-
deserves
No,
his
definitely
privacy.
he does. Yeah, I'd like to know.
I know.
But
Well, maybe he'll write a book. Wait 10
Maybe, yeah.
years, right?
or his mom will.
He'll be on Oprah or something.
You never know. I mean, now that he knows his true background, he'll be a dual citizen probably because
Yep.
he actually is Canadian. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Wow.
Before we run this episode out, I'd like to mention that it's actually basically our 1-year anniversary right now.
Yeah, I can't
We
believe
made
that.
it!
Wow. Crazy.
And actually, just about a month ago from now, from this episode launching, we hit our 10,000 listens too. It's kind of a milestone. We're quite excited by that. So
People are listening. It's weird.
woohoo!
Yay.
So keep sharing with your friends and keep growing the show, and hopefully we can get to 20,000 faster than we got to 10,000.
Yeah, and talk to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we want to hear from you more on social media. Brew Crime on Twitter. You can find us at Brew Crime on Facebook, both our group and our page. On Instagram, you can find us on Pacific Beer Chat because it's just not enough to bother opening a second
Yeah.
Instagram page yet.
For now.
/ I just don't want to run another social media account.
Yeah, that's fair. If you're
I will
hoping to
do
hear
it. I
from
will
me
do
at
it.
all,
Okay.
don't Twitter
Yeah,
because
just Facebook.
I'm old school.
Yeah.
Facebook's good.
I like letters and mail. So.
Oh my god, that would be cool.
Send
Except no
postcards.
one has our address. So
Yeah, we're gonna
wouldn't
have to work on getting a PO box at some point, but it's like $150 a year or something. So I want to work on doing that, but got to get people wanting to send us mail first, and then we'll
Yeah.
finally do it.
If you're interested in that idea, express interest on
Yes.
our Twitter or Facebook.
Or any social media or email at brewcrime@pacificbeerchat.com, and we can figure something out for sure.
These are all good options.
Yeah. You can find us on brewcrime.com. Check out our web store at brewcrime.threadless.com. We'd love you to pick up some of our swag. There's even things like skateboards, phone cases, all kinds of crazy stuff, and t-shirts and stickers and all that kind of
Pillows.
stuff. Pillows. I think there's shower
Anything.
curtains.
Yeah. That would be
It's awesome.
funny.
Lots of options.
Yep.
You can find us on all of the major podcast apps. You can find us at Spreaker.com, which is our host. You can find us at brewcrime.com. Or just, if you don't find us, send us a message and we'll get our podcast there too. Brewcrime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo design was by Ben Greenberg. All cases and stories were written by Beck, Nina, and Mike, and our sources are put into the show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at brewcrime.threadless.com, where you can purchase swag like t-shirts, phone cases, beach towels, and all kinds of cool stuff. We can also be found on your favorite podcast apps, our host, Spreaker.com, or brewcrime.com, as well as at Brewcrime on Twitter, at Brewcrime on Facebook, at facebook.com/groups/Brewcrime. Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Pacific Beer Chat. Here's a promo from one of the podcasts in the Big Heads Media Network.
Hey, I'm Zach,
And I'm Kevin.
and we're the hosts of the Ringside Podcast.
We were annoyed by the lack of hockey coverage on local sports radio and decided that we were stupid enough to try and provide some ourselves.
We have what we call the Ringside Guarantee. We guarantee that the podcast you're currently listening to is better than ours. We are literally just two halves of one whole idiot trying to fumble through covering the Detroit Red Wings, the National Hockey League, and hockey in general.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Ringside Pod, and subscribe to us on all your favorite podcast providers.
Every time you listen to our podcast, it brings us one step closer to our ultimate business goal of purchasing the Arizona Coyotes and then moving them to Detroit. What? Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming, or just another commercial. We aren't the ones who make those choices.
Hi, everybody. I'm RJ Metzger.
And I'm Rachel Metzger.
And we're the Skeptical Skeptics.
Each week we talk about all the crazy things in the world, ranging from the paranormal to Bigfoot to UFOs.
And we look at it from the perspective of the believer, the skeptic, and everything in between.
So come check us out on the MSC Podcast Network.
Or go to skepticalskeptics.com and follow us at SkepSkepPod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
In Chowchilla, California, on July 15th, 1976, I might have to start over because I'm going to burp.
So am I.
I want to make this more busy.
See, I didn't mess with my formula, so I feel good.
Sorry. You had vomit face on for a second. I was worried.
I thought it was going to be a bit of a chundy, but it's fine.
Oh my god.
Chundy.
I've never heard that, but I know where this is going.
Are you serious?
I've never heard of that.
Chundy? Like, because I'm going to chundy? Chunks are going to fly, so...
No.
Guys, I've definitely said this on other episodes.
You might have, and we probably just both went...
It's a common term in my dictionary, my vocabulary.
This is why we have Nina on, for the younger crowd.
Yes.
She uses these words that the old folks don't understand.
Right, because I'm so young.
In my day.
Anywho.
We'll save that for later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the sound it makes.
Great
Okay,
start.
Starting well.
In Chowchilla, oh fuck you, Nina.
I said delicious. Yesterday we were singing Fergalicious. You know, it's just. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sing it because you're recording and people can't know that side of me. Sorry.
It's okay.
Fergalicious. My body's so vicious. I'll be up in the jam just working on my fitness. No? No? This is a young people thing? Okay.
No, I know the song.
Okay, good.
I don't.
Okay, I'll stop now. Let's do this.
We haven't even started yet. Okay.
We will get started at some point. Don't worry. I'll mess up.
This is what happens when we're apart. Did that go... Did it go
Sorry, guys,
while I was
let
still
her rip.
talking? Should I just do that sentence again? Or?
I would do the sentence
Just in
again.
case?
I would do the sentence.
Okay. Frederick's accomplices were Richard and James Schoenfield. No, I don't know how to pronounce this. Oh, perfect. Schoenfeld.
Schoenfeld?
Schoenfield?
Sure. I don't know. I can't see.
Fake it till you make it.
Schoenfield. It doesn't matter. We don't need to pronounce their names because they're buttholes anyway.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, agreed.
So good. So good.
Sweet Caroline. So good, so good. You know the song.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Sweet. Don't ruin that song for me. It's the best stadium song. Like,
Prison pockets.
now I'm going to fucking think of prison pockets when I'm at the Canadians game next time, you assholes.
Her fault.
We'll be texting both of you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll probably be there.
Oh, that's fair.
But yeah, there were some claims that the person guilty for the heinous crime
Oh, sorry.
was Jeffrey Dahmer.
Say it again. Sorry, I talked over you there.
Of course, huge reason the case went unsolved for so long was obviously the procedural mistakes that I mentioned that were made early in
A
1981.
missing fucking car.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how you lose a keychain. I can see how you misplace your phone, your cell phone. But how you... Anyways, I don't even know.
Is this what the movie Dude, Where's My Car is based on?
Loosely, yes.
Loosely. Okay.
Okay.
I thought maybe.
Dude, where's my machete?
Yeah.
That's the sequel, isn't it?
Oh my god.
How are your ears?
And then when they were doing Chinese food thing, so bad. When talking about Adam's case, I think it's really important to talk about his father as well, John Walsh, by America's Next Top Model. No. But yeah.
Bloopers?
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
America's
bad.
Wanted?
Yes. It's
Do
cool.
you hear the birds outside?
Yes. It will sound...
You look annoyed, but I'm like,
It'll sound really pretty in the background of our show.
Can I take a picture of you making the face that the bottle's making?
But we have to get you a
I
thing.
need a monocle.
No, you should just take the bottle cap.
Oh, dudes. It's in the other eye.
The other eye.
I fucking love it so much.
I think you have a new profile picture for our website. Oh my god, and it matches with your red mic.
It's so good.
Wow.
That's so good.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
Butt cheese.
butt cheese. Okay.
I love it even better because you fucking missed.
Because we were both close-eyed laughing.
All right.
Anyway.
It seemed that his parents separate. Oh, what? Oh, sorry.
I thought you were going to say he was a child of God. I'm like, oh god.
No.
It's one of those stories.
The worst.
At the end of the scheduled vegetation, Alan had not brought.
You said vegetation.
Did I?
Scheduled vegetation is
I'm
what
not
I got.
sure.
It's included the farm. Nita's talk of farts has got me to the department.
Remind me, I have to tell you about fortresses.
Okay. But most important in all of this is that while Jermaine is now known under a name... Oh, he's known under a name, yes. But most important...
who isn't?
Not
except
over
for
a name.
Prince.
Under a name.
Exactly. Yeah, he was under a year old.
Wow. What?
21 months.
21, so you're just over... Yeah, he
Sorry,
was
I was like...
He was under two.
Under two,
Under
yeah.
2. Regardless, you're not going to remember your parents at that point.
Nope.
So this reunion... I can't speak already.